Good afternoon. We're holding today's meeting at 2 p.m. at Northern Middle School. There is no public comment. The board will announce the fact that we'll come back in from executive session at approximately 3:45 for a public session. Under Section 3-305B of the General Provisions article of the Maryland Annotated Code, there are two reasons the board will go into closed session this evening: to discuss the appointment, employment, assignment, promotion, discipline, demotion, compensation, removal, resignation, or performance evaluation of appointees, employees, or officials over whom this public body has jurisdiction; any other personnel matter that affects one or more specific individuals; to conduct collective bargaining negotiations or consider matters that relate to the negotiations. Specifically, the topic tonight will be 3-305B1, topics including certificated staffing recommendation and personnel update; 3-305B9, topic including healthcare renewal. The reason these topics will be discussed in closed session rather than open session is as follows. Personnel topics pursuant to 3-305B1 disclosed above will be considered in closed session rather than open session because they include a discussion of specific employees, which is a confidential employment matter. The negotiations topic pursuant to 3-305B9 disclosed above will be considered in closed session rather than open session because of the confidential nature of the collective bargaining process. With all of that being said, are there any objections to going into executive session? Hearing none, is there a motion to do so?
So moved.
So moved by Don.
Second.
Second by Rodney. Discussion? All those in favor of going into executive session signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. And we are in executive session. Okay, I'd like to welcome everyone to the 3:45 public session. We're getting started just about 10 minutes late. There is no public comment that I saw signed up, so we will approve the agenda for the 3:45 budget work session. So I'll take a motion as such.
So moved.
So moved by Don.
Second.
Second by Rodney. All those in favor of the budget work session agenda approved, presented in favor of that, say aye.
Aye.
And those against, nay. And it is approved. So it is all yours, Dr. McCartney. There you go. It's always good to have support.
So before I start, I would like to also introduce a new member of our staff. Miss Dallas Olette is here with us. And as you already know, Mrs. Smith is leaving us because she is relocating and will be in Virginia. So we are very sad to see Gloria leave, and I believe this will be her last board meeting. So I wanted to publicly thank her for her work and the changes that she has made in our finance office in the short time that she was able to be with us. I am very appreciative of how she has supported the system and our vision of a system where our budget is developed with input from a lot of our staff. I also want to welcome Dallas. I know will continue that work in that office. So thank you both. And so let me get my papers in order. This is our budget work session for those who are new board members to this. This is an opportunity for us to give you a view of some of our priorities for fiscal year '26, and for you as board members to share with us any sort of initiatives that you would like us to look at or to consider in some different way. To start with, on the first slide, one of the things that we always go back to are what our goals are that the board has approved for us and that we work through in the school system. Again, I didn't put the entire goal there, but I know that you expect us to challenge our students with rigorous coursework, that you expect us to have highly qualified and effective staff, that you expect us to build community partnerships, and that we provide a caring environment for our students. And at the same time that we're doing all of those things, it is important for all of us to be good stewards of our system resources. So those are the things that we keep in mind as we look at our budget and what we would need going forward. Next slide, please. One of the primary things that it is important for us to do in each budget year is to meet our negotiated agreements. And just as a reminder, in our negotiated agreements for the coming year, we are looking at a 5% salary increase for all of our employees. A lot of that is aligned to getting our teachers to a $60,000 starting salary in line with the blueprint. And I will say, in line with the blueprint and a well-deserved starting salary. The other thing embedded in the budget will be a 2% increase in our health insurance cost as we had negotiated in our agreements. And additional to that, while we don't negotiate, we do need to consider our transportation budget, and we will be looking at some increases in that budget as we go through this budget cycle. So, what do we want to try to do besides what we're already doing? Because what we're already doing is working quite well for us as a school system. We are holding our own and better as we look across the state and what we're able to offer our students. So for next year, additional things that we would like to try to do as we're putting our budget together is at the secondary level, we are proposing that we add driver's education as an elective to our secondary program. We're, and I know you have a fact sheet sort of with your executive pages for tonight. What we're looking at is a contracted service with a known driver's education provider in the county. And we are looking towards, throughout the entire year, of being able to offer driver's education to 120 of our students. That certainly will not be every student who might want driver's education, but it's 120 more than we're offering right now. It would be an elective credit. It would be a pass-fail course. Mr. Edwards and the principals and Dr. Miller have worked at what the criteria would be before students could take the course. We would work with our seniors first and then work our way down through the grade levels. And the cost of that would be $50,000 for next year. The other thing that we're looking at the secondary level is we have had a call for some time to add culinary arts to our program. Sorry?
No, I just had a question back to the driver's ed. Is the $50,000 contingent on an exact number of students, or how does that, how was that number
It would
derived?
be the number of students. It would be a cost per student.
Cost per student? And that's the estimate of the number we think we can
Right.
have involved. I assume the driving school assumes all insurance responsibilities,
Yes.
liability responsibilities, et cetera, et cetera. So
Yes.
we're just contracting $50,000 contract.
We are contracting with them to provide the service.
Great, okay.
And the driving hours, because, excuse me, a good bit of it is, thank you, classroom hours. And the driving hours would, for many students, happen during the school day. But if there was an exception to that, we will work with each student. The driving school would work with each student on how we could meet that. I'm sorry, any other questions about the driver's ed possibility? Then the next one was, our goal is to add culinary arts to the Northern High School campus. We have that available at Southern High School, and we would like it available at this campus. This year, we would use, for next school year, we would use the old home ec room at the Northern High facility. We are looking at purchasing some of the equipment that we would need for that through our CTE Perkins grant, and eventually would hope to be able to remodel a space at Northern High School for that program. We have backup plans for that should money not be available to do a complete remodel to get us a full culinary arts kitchen, because we have other facilities here on this campus that we could use if we needed to. Any questions on that program? The other, oh, yes.
Yeah, I'm just wondering on the culinary arts, once we get that program in place, are we going to be able to offer some type of, not internships, but are we going to allow those students to go out and work and possibly get credit for doing that in the community? To go to a restaurant, for instance, and I mean, we do that with some of our other programs.
Right. And I can't answer that question for you tonight, but I'll get that answer for you. Dr. Miller, do you know?
It would fall under a work-based learning program. So I think that, yes, that would be something that we could do under the work-based learning components.
Yeah, because I know there's interest in the community for that type program, I think, too. It's hard to get people to, I think it just gives them an experience of what it's going to look like if they get a job at a restaurant, and maybe that would help actually provide a career for them at some point in Garrett County.
And I know from talking to Mr. Edwards, he feels confident that we have plenty of students on the northern campus that would be interested in this program. And it is a very popular program at Southern. Some students look at it as a career pathway. Other students look at it as an opportunity to learn to cook. Either one of those desires, if we can meet those, we think that would be a good thing to be able to do. The, any other questions on that program?
Kind of piggybacking on that program, are the number of electives that have indicated to us that you may offer at the two high schools? You want to talk a little bit about that?
Yes, I will.
Okay.
We are looking, one of the things that we want to be sure of is that we are offering a full high school program that would be of interest to our students beyond required credits. We want to keep as many students in our high school environment as we can keep in our high school environment. And they have lots of choices anymore in what they can do as they go through high school. We moved to the 5-period day this year, which gave us a little bit more flexibility in our schedule. So we are looking at, I think there are maybe a dozen elective classes that we have a list of that Dr. Miller and Mr. Edwards and the principals have put together that we will be offering to our students next year so that they will have fuller schedules and will have courses of interest to them.
Actually, it's a baker's dozen, so you were close.
It's a
I found
baker's
it.
dozen.
I found it amazing, personally. You know, obviously as a history teacher, I might find that, but
Yes.
you know, everything from mythology to photography to and all the things in between. Obviously, putting on the principal's hat, X amount of kids have to sign up. Of course,
Correct.
to be able to free up that teacher to do that. So hopefully kids will take advantage because there are some great opportunities there. Really, really nice opportunities.
And a lot of those opportunities are available based on what teachers are enthusiastic about teaching.
Sure.
And when teachers are enthusiastic about teaching a particular course of their interest, it's a lot easier to share that interest with students and get them excited about those courses.
I thought the particular topics in the law, what a great class to teach.
Yes.
Yeah, there are a million things right now going on that you could talk
Do you
about.
want a job, Mr. Woods?
I got one.
We're always looking for good teachers.
I got a
So
job.
we are very, I was very pleased when I saw that list of offerings. And it is good for all of us to remember that those are offerings, as you said. They won't be available at both schools all the time. It will be dependent on student interest and teacher availability for those courses. But again, that goes along with our effort to keep more students involved for more time during the day in learning opportunities. The next is summer programming, which came up last year during our budget session. We are looking towards about $75,000 of local money to support a summer program. That isn't all of the money that would be required for that, because we would also be using some of our Title I monies and some of our community schools money to help fund those programs. At some levels, we're looking basically 2nd, 3rd through 5th grade. Each school is developing their own program. We will target specific students who we know need to benefit from this type of summer program to get them involved. So, and then at the high school, we do a credit recovery program anyway. We've been doing that for a number of years. We would continue to do that. We're looking at credit recovery being through a computer program that we will support Edgenuity. is the name of the program. It's an approved MSDE program that we can use for credit recovery. For students who need additional assistance with that, we will provide additional assistance. But that'll be a new look for the credit recovery program. Any questions on the summer program, Sadie?
Yes, the credit recovery, and since it's an online platform, can the students do that at home, or will they be coming into the school to do that?
They could do it at home,
Okay,
or they could come into the school. If we have students who don't have access to the internet or don't have enough support, we will work with those students to be sure that that support is given. And if I'm correct, we are doing some of this credit recovery during the school year through this computer program.
Yeah, the credit recovery that we're doing right now will be in person after school, but we do use Ingenuity for specific cases. It's part of the Maryland Virtual Online option that our system partners with.
Is it credit recovery of the four cores? The four
For-
core
for
English,
core
English,
classes.
science, social studies, math.
Any course that Ingenuity would offer that would be like a graduation credit. Generally, we do credit recovery for graduation credits, so it could be for any of the core courses. Sometimes you'll get a financial management in there. If Ingenuity offers that, we would certainly accept the transfer credit.
Again, we contract, by the,
It's
contract with.
a cost per course. Yeah, and it's a different amount if it's a first-time course versus a credit recovery. So it's a little bit of a modified version of the course, a shortened version.
second question about the summer program. You said that it's going to be targeted to specific students. If you don't have enough students, will it be opened up to any students in the 2 through 5 grades?
I think we will have some days where we have a more open program, but those will be maybe a day a week as we're doing this, and we're looking at doing the programs for 12 to 16 days. But we have looked at, the staff has looked very carefully at research about how one makes a summer recovery intervention program, not extension program. How do we make an intervention program work? So we will definitely be looking at the students of most need. Whether or not there is a slot open for another student, I would leave that to the school to determine. But I believe that the major focus will be on the students who we feel really need that catch-up time.
And what about transportation for those students if there's a transportation problem?
We plan to work through that on an individual basis. We looked at the possibility of providing transportation and decided that we would address that on a case-by-case basis and take care of families as we needed to take care of them.
Thank you.
The third, fourth, and fifth grades, I think you were talking about with the is that like a half-day program each day? How long?
It really does depend on the school because we are braiding a variety of funding sources, one of which is the community school funding. And so schools are really looking at the needs of their individual students, the students that they plan on inviting, as well as the needs assessment that is conducted through the community schools. So some schools find, based on their data, that a full day program is what is needed to support the families in their area, whereas others, they're looking at 2 or 3 hours where they're bringing them in for targeted support, and that seems to be what's appropriate for that community. So
Duration of time? terms of weeks? 1 week?
Yeah,
2
4 to
weeks?
6 weeks.
6?
4 to 6 weeks. The programs will range, but schools will fall within the 4 to 6 week range. Generally, 2 to 3 days a week.
Lunch?
Mr. Germain said he had it taken care of. He's going to feed them all.
Yeah. Well, the reason I ask all those questions is I think we all know that, if you can sell every element of it, we'll pick you up, we'll feed you, we'll work with you. Okay? If we'll do everything, then more people are going to say, yeah, sure, I'm going to send. Last question. We're going to invite, but let's say I'm not invited, can I still attend?
That kind of goes back to what Dr. McCartney was saying earlier. The targeted days are really designed for specific students who are in need of that support. There will be some opportunities where additional students may be invited.
So it's an invitation only, is what you're saying.
Yes.
Yes, it is.
Okay.
Last question. Is this at all of the elementary schools or just the community schools?
All.
Okay.
Anything else about summer program? Okay, great. Thank you.
Okay. And then we get to instructional materials, as we always have to, I believe you're going to hear about some science materials tonight, but we're looking at budgeting about $93,000 for science materials for our 6th through 8th grade students. Our English language arts program, we're looking at budgeting about $600,000 for materials for that program. And this is all in line within your budget book. We have a sort of a curriculum guide that shows year by year what we're trying to do. The 600,000 will not fully do the pre-K to 5. You will see that come up again in fiscal year 27, that we'll need more funding for that. And then to support our counseling program, our social emotional learning component of that program, which focuses on decision making and responsibility and children learning to be a part of a group. We are budgeting $32,000 for materials for that program. I will say also for that program, we're looking at the possibility of weaving that into a grant that may become available. So those will be the program materials that.
Question.
Any questions on those?
Rodney?
Yeah, if we're fortunate enough to have a surplus at the end of this year, would you consider buying some of these materials with that surplus?
I might do that by coming to the board and asking for that go-ahead.
I mean, we've done it fast.
Right. Yes. And have some money.
That would free up some money for other things. Yes, thank you.
I can do that, we would. And if we could do it before price increases come in,
Yeah, do quick.
we would do it even more quickly.
Other questions about instructional materials?
I need to get
Okay.
closer. Okay. Any other questions on that page,
I don't think so.
on that slide? And I should have started this with, these are really goals, and I wrote myself a note the other day, are these aspirational, or do you really think you're going to be able to meet them? A lot depends on the legislative session and where our funding ends up. But I consider the things on this slide pretty high priority in our budgeting process. I wanted to share with you on slide 4 the things that principals, we give to principals of our schools, we give a certain allocation amount so that they can budget at the school level for supplies, materials, some staff development, some intervention, all at the school level. So, and then we survey them to see what other things beyond those allocations they may want. Then we have meetings with them to discuss what it is they might want beyond those allocations. As in looking at those things that the principals have asked us for beyond where they are right now is some increased funding for intervention services or after-school tutoring. So we'll keep those in mind as we're doing the budget. There were requests countywide for a couple of assistants, a couple more assistants than we have right now, one in our special needs program, and a request overall for 3 teachers, one being the culinary arts teacher, and then a couple other teachers in the intervention area that principals thought they're principals, they know that they would be helpful to them. And I just wanted to bring those to your attention as a board. We will be considering those as we go through the budget process. We'll be looking at those in terms of, we did staffing guidelines last year, so we'll be looking at those. We also have to begin looking at that 75-25 requirement. Unless we're lucky and the legislative session decides to do something about that. So we will be considering those as we go forward, but I would suggest that most of that, other than the culinary arts teacher and maybe not even that teacher, we will try to do with shifting staff among the county as we look at enrollment as we go forward to next year. Because we're just beginning our enrollment process. So we'll see where all of that lands, but it is our objective to try to meet the needs of our students and to have conversations with principals about why some of the needs are coming up. On slide 5, just to remind you, not that you necessarily need to be reminded of that. We have a lot of capital projects going on. The 2 big projects that Mr. Witt is in charge of and looking at very carefully will be completing the new Broadford School, our pre-K to 6 school at the southern end of the county. We seem to be on track for that school as far as when it should be ready to open, and plan to be able to move in to that building mid-year of next year. The other big projects that are coming up that were on our CIP are replacing the roof at Northern High School and Southern Garrett High School. And I don't think it's the complete roof. It is it's a partial replacement at this point. So those are our big capital projects. Those won't be our only ones. Mr. Witt and I are reviewing the CIP, and we'll be bringing that to you in the next couple months to look at the comprehensive plan for the county again, as we sort of recalibrate a little bit based on some recent decisions or non-decisions. So, but wanted you to know that definitely capital projects are a big part of our budget. So now I'm going to ask Gloria, Mrs. Smith. See, I remember her last name now that she's leaving. I called her Miller.
Yeah, I was going to say, it's no longer Miller.
Yeah. But just to review, you've seen on slide 6, I don't know why it says slide 8, but it does. On slide 8, we skipped a couple, but on slide 8, you've seen these numbers before, but just wanted
Right.
a review.
This is the same information that I provided last month to the board. That's the preliminary state aid. There has not been an update, and we were told last week from MSDE that we would not see an update until the legislature is completed. So I'm thinking late April, early May, before we'll have revised numbers. As far as the discussions that we have on our CFO calls with them, it changes from week to week, what's in, what's out. So at this point, that's the best estimate that we have. We have compiled the requests from all the departments. We can say that this funding is probably not going to cover everything that people have requested, of
Wish
course.
list, yeah.
Have those numbers. The salaries, of course, and the fixed charges that we have negotiated will be about $2.25 million, which this would cover if everything stays flat. The budget request add about another $2.5 million, but that's only about 4.5% increase, which is not extraordinary at all. I was surprised that, we're that close. So we'll see as we work through some of those things and narrow it down. And then once we get a better financial estimate from the state, we'll have a better idea of, what we can do. Any questions on that?
Any questions about those numbers? Obviously, same numbers we saw last month. But
Of course, our biggest increases, as you might, guess, would be in our maintenance and operations. Costs are going up, and of course, the COVID funding that we have, that we used in the past couple of years to cover that, is gone. So that's not a surprise. Our instruction has gone up about almost 16%, which is a lot of it to do with the textbooks and media increases. And then we're seeing about a 14% increase in transportation. Having said that, as Dr. McCartney and I have mentioned before, our transportation is usually underfunded by the state to the tune of about $1 million. This year's estimate is actually right on to what we've actually spent the last couple of years. So it's not, I don't think, an unreasonable request at this point. So we will see as things move forward. Any questions?
do these estimates ask our local share? Let me say this politically correct. Are we asking for the legal minimum that we
Yes.
must be given by our
Yes.
local
And that's-
commissioners?
That's
Yes,
the
it-
34 million there.
If we go to our last slide, Mr. Woods, what we want to be able to do, and again, I would say this is a goal that we are aspiring to do. The local share is based on programs in the blueprint, not on maintenance of effort.
Right.
And the local share went up
4 million.
4 million.
Yeah, it went up a good.
4 million this year. So with that in mind, what we plan to do is what we did last year. And that is to support, no, go to the next one, please. There we go. Thank you. To the last slide, that we would, next to the last slide, I'm sorry, that we would support our budget, support the priorities that we have, using what the state has said the local must give us, using our state money, our federal money, and possibly some of our carryover fund balance to meet our budget next year. That being said, I'm not totally convinced at this point until we see what the state actually does in our budget, whether or not we're going to be able to meet that goal. But that's the goal that Mrs. Smith and I have set for ourselves and for the system as we go forward. Did preview for the commissioners last year when we presented our budget that we might have to ask for more this year in order to meet the educational needs in our negotiated agreements. But I think it behooves us to try to do it without asking, if we possibly can. So that's where we are at this point, and it's real hard to get specific with the numbers. Last year, I felt like, and I heard Bob Stevens from the health department say this at the commissioners, you feel like a yo-yo. One day, we have 1.8 million sitting there because we're going to get the disparity grant. The next day, I get an email that says, well, maybe not. Or you're going to have this money in foundation. And if any of us are working with the legislators or through MAVE, Mr. Glodfeldy, it is the foundation formula that needs the most help. Foundation is the basic amount of money that we get for every student in the county. And what is happening is that is not growing fast enough to keep up with the expenses. And we have money targeted, focused on particular areas that where we really need it is in the foundation. So any input we can give in that regard would be very helpful to the system. And I know that is a across the state need from that superintendents express at every opportunity we have. Did you have a question?
No, just a statement. I think you're exactly right. There's a lot of money that's on the table now because you're facing a $3 billion deficit at the state. And so they're looking for ways to save any money they can. And so the education disparity grants probably a worry. House Bill 504 with blueprint alterations, they want to freeze the, it's not only not getting enough, but freeze it at current level, which would be disastrous. It's going back and forth between the House and Senate right now, and the House doesn't want to make any alterations to that, and the Senate might be receptive to some of the things were in that House bill. So we have to wait and see. We're certainly down there testifying and everything on these bills. So hopefully it'll work out. Yeah, I know that PZAM is, and CFOs are putting input in, and that's all good. We all ought to speak as one voice on this.
The Superintendents Association is certainly very thankful for the support of the Maryland Association of Boards of Education. It's been a very good working relationship this year as we have, the two groups have been working very closely and trying to get some minor modifications to the blueprint programming, not just in funding, but also in implementation. I am very thankful that this year there is a bill, I think it's House Bill 492, Senate Bill 8 something, that would exempt pretty much automatically any school of less than 350 students from that 75-25 weighted student funding. That could make a significant difference for us in how we budget and how we place staff. So hopefully we get some movement there. Yeah. The last thing on the last slide, for feedback, that's all we said, feedback. But one of the things I wanted to alert the board to, and I know that Mrs. Brewer will be getting this to you in a formal way. I had contact from Scott Weeks just yesterday from the commissioner's office, and we have been asked to present our budget request on April 22nd at 4:30. And Scott is fully aware of where we are in our budget process and how difficult it is as we're trying to figure out, and he's trying to figure out how much state money any of us are going to have next year. So, but if you would, mark your calendars for April 22nd at 4:30.
So what you're saying, based on his request, you're going to be able to present to the board on April 22nd the superintendent's proposed budget?
Yes, we did that last year.
Yeah.
Yes.
So that,
Yes.
'cause they'll have to be out there for a month.
Right. And then I believe it is in May that we would be asking the board to take action on the budget. May? Yes. So,
She doesn't care.
she does care. That is the good thing about her.
She'll read about it in the paper.
She does care.
We presented in May and they voted in June.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank
I
you.
think you're right, yeah.
Present in May, vote in June.
Yeah. Yes, we have to
Okay.
get
Thank
this in by the end of June.
Yes.
Because the certified.
Okay, any other questions? Anyone about the budget process? And certainly I would encourage each of you, if there are things in the budget that you feel passionate about, now would be the time to communicate those to the superintendent, and especially when we get the budget booklet. That's typically the time that we go over that. If we see things we think should be a little more, or perhaps a little less, that's the time to communicate that to the superintendent as well. And as you know, the budget is one of the three areas that we do control as an elected board. So good or bad, we own that budget in the end. So let's make sure that we all know what's in there and we agree with how we're going to spend our money.
And for those new to the board, you will get a more detailed budget as we, that will look like this.
So just like that, yes.
That will give you what we had budgeted in lines in previous years, how much we had spent mid-year. And we use some of that to guide us for the next budget year as we're putting that budget book together. Knowing that things do change during the year, staffing changes and needs change, but it gives us good direction for the year. And I know that Mrs. Smith has been working quite industriously on trying to align how we budget with how we spend so that we have to do fewer amendments to the budget.
Great. Anything else, anyone? Okay, I will take a motion to adjourn the budget work session.
So move.
Moved by Rodney, take a second. Second by Matthew. All those in favor of adjourning the budget work session, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. And we are adjourned until 6 o'clock, when we will reconvene for the public session. You really came in and bailed us out of a difficult situation.